So this is such a good intro. This is life. All right.
I
Welcome, y'all. We are so excited to have a conversation today about just wealth and wellness in your journey, all of the amazing things that you can make happen when you get focused, get community, and have as much spiritual alignment as you can muster up to follow through on your dreams. So we've got Monica here. Very excited to have her because she's one of the OG students from 2020, 3 years ago, when she stumbled across an interview that I had done with Anthony O'Neill. It kind of lit a fire under her feet, and she got serious about her money journey, having paid off $18,916 in 6 months instead of her original 12-month projection. And that was just the beginning, because after
Yes.
that, you got into grad school, you paid for it cash, you started your business, you are a kingdom woman. You also have recently gotten married, you bought land in your home country,
I
Zanzibar.
did.
A list of things, I'm getting goosebumps. You like saved thousands of dollars, and now you have graduated with a
Mhm.
debt-free master's degree as a mental health professional and can be able to start this next chapter of your life. It sounds like, and you can tell me, just like a lot
Mhm.
of peace and ease and abundance, as opposed to a lot of people who come out of grad school or go into marriage not doing great financially and are starting that new season in turmoil. So I would love to hear like what that feels like for you to kind of be in this completely new season, not having to maybe like worry about finances maybe the way that you used to.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for having me, by the way. I'm so happy to be back. Always a good time. It really has been an amazing journey for me. And, the road was not smooth, obviously. So it's like every day, it's a daily surrender and just saying, okay, yesterday was a good day, today can be as well, just pushing through day by day, but also knowing that I did graduate with a debt-free degree. Spent probably like $45,000 between tuition and books combined, in the past. Yeah. So it's just like, whoa, on another hand, because I wasn't even able to save anything, right?
Mm.
I worked, paid my rent, tuition, and a girl gotta live, so you take care of yourself. So there were some days where I would look at my bank account, I'm like, oh, I have nothing. But then I'm like, wait, but I'm paying for school. So
Yeah.
now I'm like, okay, when school is done, all this can really be all about saving what it is that, I'm paying out for. So also finding ways to encourage yourself and motivate yourself was really key for me.
Mhm.
And now that that chapter has closed, I can look back and really be grateful that I stuck through it,
Mm.
because now you hear a lot of people who are buried and in so much debt. And, a lot of it is also interest, because the interest accumulates and
Yeah.
it's a headache in itself. So, yes, I would say I am definitely at peace knowing that that's something I don't have to worry about
Mm.
because I was proactive along the way.
What do you think it was that shifted for you to go from, you know what I mean? Like you had the 18,000 in debt, and then you started, getting really serious about your finances. What changed?
Um, Again, I think it just goes back to me watching your video, honestly, because I was praying. I said, Lord, I know I need to work on my finances.
Hmm.
I don't know how.
Okay.
And so your video was the how for me.
Mhm.
you know, I feel like God talks to me in the most strangest ways, but I'm glad I listened because I watched your video. I was like, wow, first of all, she's so young. She looks like me. If she can do it, so can I. So already there was that fire that was put up for me. I think because I had made up my mind that I wanted to change.
Mhm.
So you you were one of like the resources that was brought
Yeah.
along the path for me to be like, okay, so something in me said reach out, and I did, and I'm glad I did because now we
Mhm.
connected, not just there, but you gave me some tools that I was able to follow up on. And then when you launched your platform for wealth and wellness, I was able to join that. And then that created a community for me. So now I had people holding me accountable, but also supporting me along that journey.
Mm.
And so what was planned out for me to pay off in 12 months, I ended up doing it in 6 months instead, because I really just got, I was like, okay, we're not going in 2021 with this debt. And then I'm planning to go to school. I was
Yeah.
like, no, we need to do one thing at a time. And just so
Oh
a
my
lot
God.
of determination.
Amazing. So I'm sure people are going to watch it now and on the replay and ask themselves how, like, how were you able to pay off, right? Like
Hmm.
$18,000 in 6 months. What
Hmm.
budgeting methods did you use? Like, was there any, you know what I mean? I think people are going to be like, but how, like,
Yeah.
what did you do to make that happen?
No, absolutely. The how is always important. I think it goes back to visually seeing everything that I owed, like writing it down. So, for example, I use the Every Dollar app. I still do till now. And I used that to, while I was paying off my debt. But I remember joining Financial Peace University, and, they teach you so much in there on how to like debt snowball and get rid of your debt. So
Mhm,
that was a big how for me. And then, in the community, we would talk about different ways of attacking the debt.
mhm.
Um, Going at it with like gazelle intensity. And I used to love that. I'm like, gazelle intensity, Monica, go, go, go.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of how I would say definitely find, and not everything works for everyone. So that's why I love that when I found you, I was able to relate, but
Mhm,
also understand, like,
mhm.
spoken the language that I understood finances more than I ever did before. Right. So I think finding the right information for you to understand that, that's going to be really helpful. And then try those steps when you find, like the steps on what to do, especially how like Dave Ramsey maps everything out in the
Mhm.
books that they do. It is so helpful. At first you might be like, it's whatever, but then you be surprised because you pay off one card and you're like, oh, that actually worked. Let me put this money here. Wait a minute, all my cards are paid off. Okay, great. What's next? So seeing your small progress, I would say celebrate the small progress as you are working towards paying off the bigger thing that you have.
I love it. Yeah, I remember getting, email updates from you and you're like, "I'm credit card debt free."
Yeah.
And then you emailed me shortly after that and you were like, "I'm debt free." And I was like, "Whoa, like this is amazing." Because, I can sit and talk about how I did it and I can tell people what,
Mhm.
options they have, but honestly, I think that it really takes a certain shift to happen in your mindset and in your life, and sometimes even spiritually, to really
Right.
actually execute and do the experiment with your life to see what's possible. So
Mhm.
especially in the beginning, because that's at the beginning of when I started sharing things online and whatnot, I was like, oh my gosh, like it
Yeah.
wasn't me. I'm not like some unicorn that did something.
Right.
I'm like, okay, this stuff, when you find the right method, like you mentioned, right? Because everyone has to find what's going to work for them. But when you
Yeah.
find the right method, then, there's no limit to what's possible for you. And I
Mhm.
think that there's a spiritual component that can't be ignored and not everyone may understand because
Right.
right now there's like posts that I've put up and people are like, but what about interest? And I'm like, I didn't calculate interest when I started my journey. I was just like, I need to start and I need to keep going.
Right.
You need to be focused on doing what you can. And I assume like in your journey, there were like miraculous things that happened to you
Right.
in the process
Right.
of, paying off your debt and growing your wealth and becoming a professional counselor that you couldn't have planned for. It's like, no, this had to be divine. Like,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Even going in, it may seem like I definitely cash flowed a bulk of it, but then some of it the Lord just really just
yeah.
provided.
Mm,
I was able to get scholarships, and I wasn't able to get financial aid
mm,
because of like being an immigrant and whatnot at the
yeah.
time. And so I was really forced to, but then it
Mm,
was so interesting that I believe I probably got a total of like 5,000 from
mhm.
school itself. And then one of them was the scholarship where I was just like, it was the first time they created it for only counselor students.
Wow.
And I was like, who knows? Let me apply and apply it. And that was the first to get it. I was just like, no. It was
Yes.
so awesome. and then seeing that, I was like, God, this has to be you. This has to be you. Just having things provided
Yeah.
throughout the whole time. Never went to bed hungry, like it's one of those things, God is with you always. You're paying your rent, you're feeding yourself, um, finding different things that you still want to have a life after
Yeah.
all. And it's so interesting. I'll tell you this, in my whole life, while in grad school, I traveled the most
Yeah.
while maintaining like two jobs.
It's amazing what'll
Had
happen.
time to travel. It's like room just opened up in my life because I was exactly where I needed to be.
Mm.
And people were just like, I don't know how you do it. And I was just like, going about my business. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love it. For anyone who is watching right now, we're so glad to have you. Feel free to drop in the chat, what your financial goal is right now. And it's a process. And I really do believe, like you said, room is made when you start to walk in alignment and,
Hmm.
focused in your journey. Like you said, yes, you were in grad school. Yes, you were working two jobs, you were cash flowing it and still able to travel. And I assume, again, it wasn't perfect, but I assume that you were the most energized, you were the most, on fire for what you were doing. And that's the piece that's hard to explain, I feel like, to people, like, because there's
Hmm.
eyesight and there's mindsight. And so eyesight is like, what's in the bank account right now? Like, what do I have
Right.
control over in this material reality? But then
Mhm.
mindsight is like, well, creatively, what is possible beyond what I see right now? And how can, for whatever, you believe in, whatever y'all believe in, to match me and match that energy that I have,
Mm.
to envision something that's not currently in my reality. That's what you're saying when you say you want to be debt free. That's what you're saying
Mhm.
when you say you want to have a fully funded emergency fund, or you want to travel the world, or you want to have healthy relationships, you want to live your best
Mhm.
life. You're saying you want to have something that's different than what your current experience is. You are a creator and you can co-create with your maker to change your physical reality to match the vision that you have. But it gets kind of, gets into a very fun conversation. So I love to see that you had those examples in your journey, because literally when people would ask me about my journey, I'd be like, checks would appear, like,
From nowhere. That too. I sure did get some checks. I was like, thank you, Lord.
and you're like, yeah, it's
Yeah.
great. So that part is kind of
Yeah.
difficult to explain, other than like, that's divinity. There's nothing else,
Yeah,
no other
literally
way.
divine and intervention. Like
There's no other
my
way.
destiny helpers definitely woke up. They were like, okay, we need to go locate her.
Oh my
We
goodness.
know she's ready.
Right.
She's
And
ready.
honestly, I
So,
think of it like being a parent now,
mhm.
I can see different, like, spiritually, I can see things differently as a parent now, because I'm like,
Right.
okay, if you're an auntie, if you are a big sister, if you are a parent, if you're an older cousin or something like that, when you think about the little people in your life, you want
Mhm.
everything for them. You want them to have
Yeah.
everything.
Mhm. Mhm.
However, you know that you can't just give them
Everything.
everything, because they have to be ready for it.
Mhm.
You want to make sure that they're learning the right lessons along the way, so that, you know what
Mhm.
I mean? So it's like,
Yeah.
of course, our who created us wants us to have everything, but it's not just going to be handed to us on a silver platter, and
Correct.
definitely not given to us when we're not ready. There are going to be
Yeah.
some things that we have to do in preparation to receive that stuff. But it's a really interesting journey for sure. I would love to know kind of like the role that community played in your journey, as far as
Mhm.
like, what communities did you join? How did they help you? Would you recommend someone have community in some way, shape, and form on their wealth and wellness journey?
Mhm. Yes, absolutely. I think it's really critical to have that in your different
Mhm.
places in your life, and so having community. And so for me, like, community was that accountability part for me, especially when I started this debt free journey, because again, I had never done it before,
Yeah.
right? So now being able to be surrounded by people who are like-minded, and they're pushing through to, and it's not just let's pay off this debt and get back in debt. No, like, you have your wealth mindset changed, because it's wealth financially, but it's also wealth mentally, emotionally,
Mhm.
spiritually, literally in every area of your life. Relationally, you're pursuing things differently than you did before. So being able to have the wealth and wellness community for me was really so helpful, because till today there's some people in there who we chat once in a while. Hey, how are you doing? Like you check in on each other. Now
Yeah.
you're friends for like life, because
Mhm.
you went through this journey together. So that's been amazing. So I would definitely recommend, if you are on that journey of like trying to pay off debt, and it can be a lonely walk, but once you find yourself in the right place, it is so helpful. It is
Mm.
so helpful. Some days will be better than others, but yet you will continue to feel encouraged and be pushed towards your goals.
Oh, I know that the research shows not just when it comes to money, but in general, when you have, someone knows about your goal,
Mm-hmm.
at over 65% higher rate of success. But if you have meetings, like accountability meetings for
Right.
your goals, you're at over 95% higher rate of success. And so to me at this point, if we
Amazing.
know, right? Yeah, if we know that that's what the research shows leads to success, I almost think it's either self-sabotage or like you just like, why would you not use accountability? You better call your pastor, you better call a friend, you better call your
Somebody.
sister, somebody to help you be accountable, because it can guarantee your success. And so it's like if you don't do that, then I question like how serious are you about whatever your goal is, or is there something that
Right.
needs to shift or happen for you to be able to get to that place? Because there's a lot of healing that I think we have to do
Yes.
in this journey as well, right? It's not just about money, but like you mentioned, it's relational,
Yeah. Yeah.
spiritual.
Yeah.
There's so many different areas of growth that have to occur. And that kind of leads to, what I think about when people say they want to have, right? So we want to
Mm-hmm.
financial freedom. We want to have, healthy relationships. We want to have the ability to travel and have flexibility.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we know that in order to have those things, we have to do certain things, right? We have to do, a budget. We have to
Mm-hmm.
utilize our skill set or have hard conversations. But the question that I really want to ask and have everyone think about is like, who do you have to become in order to be the person that does the things that will help you have what you want? You know what I mean? Like
Yes.
who have you become in the last 3 years in this
Right.
process?
Yeah, I just want to touch on something real quick about the healing process. I think for me, something big I had to do also is heal the fact that it was okay to have a relationship with money.
Mm,
Right? Because I grew up like, oh, money doesn't grow on trees, but then there was no really
yeah.
real lesson in how to actually handle that money.
Hmm.
Like I saw money come and go in my house, but then you weren't really taught the value of it,
Hmm.
so we couldn't really understand where it was coming from. So I think that was a big part for me of having now to build a healthy relationship with money, and saying it's okay to have money,
Mm,
and it's okay to be able to give it in certain ways where I know I'll get a yield of return back with it.
yeah.
It's meant to come and go, but sometimes we hang on to something so long, and then it's like we end up not getting far at
Mm.
the same time. So it was a lot of like myths that I had to overcome when it came to money.
Oh, that's deep. Yeah, I think sometimes we're conscious of those things that are holding us back or those beliefs that we have from like childhood and growing up. Sometimes it's also society or school, teachers, things
Mm-hmm.
people say, but sometimes it's unknown. Sometimes there's like these beliefs that we have that are under the surface. It's not
Right,
until you start doing the work that they begin to come up. And so I
right,
love that
right.
you saw this process of healing your relationship, with
Yeah,
money, and that it's okay to even have a relationship with money, right? Because
right,
a lot
right.
of the time we get these mixed signals about money that like it's bad or evil to have it or want it,
Yeah,
but we need it on a daily basis. Like,
you do. You do.
yeah, keep these lights on,
I mean, yes,
so
absolutely.
interesting.
May you please repeat the question?
Yes. So who did you have to become? Like like who did
Oh,
you what characteristics did you have to embody? maybe what parts of yourself did you have to let go of? Sometimes you have to like,
Mhm.
allow certain parts of yourself to be shed too.
I love that question. I think in this process of becoming, it's always like ongoing, and being able to launch my podcast was one of those things that has shaped who I am continuing to become, because I stumbled upon so many topics that were literally speaking to me,
Mm,
and so just becoming a woman of who continues to obey God, continues to say yes to him, because it's in my yes to him that I can know what path to take,
yeah.
right? And so becoming grounded in who Christ has made me and continuing to discover what that is for me has
Mhm.
really helped me to be disciplined in my life
Mm,
and to view the world in such a different way than I did before. Because I paid off debt and then started school. While in school, met my husband.
I know, I'm like, is this M and heart and C back there? Like, ooh, yes.
So I met my husband. Literally, it was the funniest thing too, because I knew his family for like past 7 years before I met him, and I didn't even know he existed. It was hilarious. I was friends with his mom for like 7 years. It was the most funny
Wow.
thing. So it's so amazing how God just really orchestrated everything, and I began to see things I didn't see before in
Mhm.
this process of becoming, because now I was able to say, okay, God, whatever your will, let it be done in my life. I was able to be more submissive to what
Yeah.
he wanted me to do, especially with knowing like he got me through debt. It's
Yeah.
so in such a short time than I thought I would be done, right? I was just like, okay, if you can do this, you can do this. And then so wedding prepping comes. Let me tell you, the whole wedding was fully funded by like family and friends. It was just incredible, you know. So that was also debt free. I'm telling you, just like what you were saying earlier, when one thing happens, you
Mhm.
saw checks coming in left to right. That was us. We just were like, okay, we're getting married. Let's choose a date. We pick a date. And then people are just like, okay, here's a check. Here's, and I was just like, God, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So it's like the person I am becoming just continues to show me that it is okay to be obedient. It is okay to say yes, but also when I don't know something, it is okay to ask for help.
Mhm.
Just I feel very, very I'm humbled by so much that I've been able to see move in my life. My life has been transformed in these past 3 years than I've
Mhm.
ever been the rest of my life. So it's just amazing to see what the next 30 years of my life are going to look like. It's just really, 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 really exciting.
Oh my goodness. It makes me like a little bit emotional and I get like goose pimples because, this isn't the first time I'm hearing something like this. And I'm so glad that I get to witness, you know what I mean? Like your
Mhm.
journey evolve and the other women in our community evolving and growing into different versions of themselves. And every single version of a person, every single version of you is lovable, valuable, worthy, amazing.
Mhm.
But there's always, more that we can
Mhm.
dive deep into when it comes to being these beings that are, made in the image of a creator that's limitless. So it's like, well, if that's the
Absolutely.
case, then our lives can be limitless. We just have to keep going and being open to receiving the abundance that's already waiting for us. So it's just a pleasure
Right.
to be able to know you and get to watch your journey grow. And like, it's
Thank
the
you.
conversations we had 3 years ago. They're just like, you've done that thing. Like, you're past whatever
Yes.
challenges that you had at that time. Because sometimes it's like the challenges we're experiencing feel like they're the not that you ever said anything that was the end of the world, but it can feel like our challenges can feel so deep at the time
It
while we're
can.
in it.
And trust me, I've had moments where it felt that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially like I was sharing earlier about school. before I
Mhm.
found my community in school. I used to sometimes go to cry. I was crying
Yeah.
every night going to bed because I was like, I read this question 100 times and I
Yeah.
still don't know what they're asking me to do.
Mm.
No joke, because you're like, you're trying to do the best you can. And
Yeah.
this is another funny thing. Like, God has such a sense of humor. I was never known to be an A student.
Okay.
Never. I don't even know. I graduated with like a 2.9 average in my bachelor's, right? And grad school, I got all A's. So I'm like an A student in grad school. I was like, okay, God, you blow my mind. Literally, you blow my mind. So I think I also discovered while in grad school that I
Yeah.
actually had a learning disability that I
Okay.
never knew before. And it was literally through, classes and reading, learning
Wow.
about disabilities and whatnot, learning that learning disability was a thing,
Mm.
right? But growing up back home, my first, from like pre-K to seventh grade,
Mhm.
I just could not grasp information as
Yeah.
easily as other kids. So automatically they just think you're
Mm.
slow or you're not smart. So I
Yes.
heard that not only at school, but also at home. It
Wow.
was like, oh, you're not smart. You're just not smart. You're just not
Yeah,
smart.
yeah.
So that, sticks with you. You're a child,
Mhm.
but it sticks
Mhm.
with you. So coming to the US, um I was put in ESO classes, but I still didn't understand. It was
Yeah.
not until years later, I'm in grad school, 33 years old, then I learned that I have a learning disability. That changed the trajectory of how I actually viewed myself,
Wow.
because now I was like, okay, there is nothing wrong with me. I
Hmm.
am smart. I just learn things in a different way.
Wow.
So that's something that really freed me
Mm.
at that time, and still continues to do that today, because I can also look at other people and how they learn and be like, no, 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 no.
Mm.
It's not a one size fits all.
Mm.
We all have different ways of grasping and learning things. So give the person the opportunity to do so. You'd be surprised what will
Yeah.
come out of them.
Mm. Wow, that is deep. Wow. Okay, and that's new to me because I didn't know that piece of things, but I love
Hmm.
that are so willing to share because I know someone who's watching this now or later is gonna be like, "Oh my goodness, like, that hits home for me." And the more you're able to find out about yourself, right? Self-awareness is a huge part of the process.
It
Self-development is a huge
is.
part of the process. The better off you'll be in the long run because you'll have this information on how to best meet your own needs, you know what I mean, as opposed to
Yes.
comparing yourself to other people, trying to do a one size fits all model and see it work for other people and then question why it's not working for you and then think that there's
Correct.
something wrong with you. And so I love that you've had that breakthrough and that you've been freed to have a new way of seeing yourself and your identity in that. Oh my gosh, that's really deep. So
Thank
you
you.
said back home. So where is back home?
Back home is Zambia.
And where, and because you beat me already to the punch on buying land back home. I'm from Uganda, but
Yes.
tell us how you like what happened. I mean, you may not tell us all the details, but like I remember you just showing up to a call one day and you were like, "So yeah, I bought land," and I'm like, "What?"
I know. It's so funny. When I was sending you the things I did, I honestly was in a fog. I could not. I always forget about the land. Maybe it's because when I did it, I was just like, let me just do this and
Yeah.
not even think about it. So it's so funny until like even sometimes my mother-in-law is like, so land, I can't wait to go to Zambia so we
Yeah,
can play some
me
more. And
neither.
I'm like, oh yeah, I did. So I'm humbled that people do remember, but it's always so funny. I always forget that I did that, and it's just amazing again. And that also I bought while in school.
Yeah.
So it was one of those things. My mother, she's a farmer, so she always travels and she sees different places. So she's like, hey Monica, this is happening, if you're interested, let me know.
Mhm.
And so I did. And it's so funny. They sent me the paperwork not long ago, and I was just like, okay, it's official. So it's just really exciting. I'm just like, I can't wait to go. By the time I go, hopefully, I can bring like my whole extended family from here so they can be able to check it out. But I'm excited thinking already of, I'm like, when I'm on my phone, I see like how, like like different buildings of homes. I'm trying to like envision what I want to see on there. So I'm already planning. I'm like, okay, I'm ready. So it's fascinating because, like you said, sometimes you sit around and you don't think you're making progress in
Yeah.
life, but then you have these things that you're actually doing, and especially when other people point it out for me, then it hits. I'm just like, oh yeah, I did do that.
Don't sleep on yourself. And that's, I think, one of the
Yeah.
nice things about community, right? Is like it's really easy to diminish and forget, smooth over all of the things that you're doing, the effort you're putting in, the growth, the progress. But when you are surrounded by other people, you can't ignore that because they're going to
Mhm.
bring it up if they're the right people, right? So
Mhm.
I'm not going to
Right.
let you slide if you bring up a win. I'm not gonna, excuse me. You said
I
what? Like
know.
forever, I'm going to bring that up. Like,
I love it. I love it.
and I just need to make sure you have a big enough suitcase that I can fit in, and make sure that I have a room in the house. No, I'm kidding. But
I
I
love
would
it.
love to be able to like go one day and visit and know like this is like
Right.
where you were able to plant your flag and
Yeah.
have a piece of the world that you can grow, you know, your house on, or you can grow food on, or
Absolutely.
you can grow
Right,
family on.
right,
Whatever
right.
the case is, passed down. That's generational wealth.
Generational wealth. Yeah.
Mhm.
Absolutely. And that's something I think I, wanted to do for so long.
Mhm.
While I was in debt, I had literally nothing to my name back home,
Mhm. Mm.
and it's like I was working so many hours, but
Yeah.
yet I had nothing to show for it.
Mm.
And just like I said earlier, when you are obedient, all God needs is your yes, and you'll be surprised how many things you'll be able to do. So in this past 3 years, so much has taken place only because I continue to have that daily surrender mentality, to say
Mm.
yes to his plan.
Mhm.
And I'm like, what is your will for my life? Like, I know what I want, but what do you want for me? So just so I don't get disappointed. um but yes, once I was able to do that, like I shared, I traveled the most while in school. Sometimes I would bring my laptop with me wherever I go with my books,
Yeah, I
bring
love
them with me. I am studying during the night, during the day I'm touring wherever I'm visiting. So I made it work, and it was just like, wow, I didn't even think I would be able to do this. But meanwhile, when I had one job and nothing else, I
yeah.
couldn't even go anywhere because
Mm.
I just never had money. Like what? Yeah.
What a journey. And Chef Stacy Dugan is here and says, I am loving this conversation. Chef Stacy is another Wealth and Wellness University student. Still
Nice.
in the game. So glad to have you here. Share whatever thoughts are coming up for y'all, whatever questions are coming up for y'all. She paid off $18,000 in 6 months instead of the 12 original projection. And that was just like your first win. There's so many other things that have happened. You've been able to save thousands of dollars. You went to grad school and cash flowed that for yourself, graduated recently. And so
Right.
now you are done with school, married,
Mhm.
no debt. Like you
Mhm.
are living some sort of dream, some kind of dream right now. And again, life is not perfect. So I don't want anyone here to think like, oh gosh, because I think it's easy to like look at other
Right.
people's situations and then think the grass is greener. We are all going to have our versions of challenge. Okay. We're all going to have
Absolutely.
our versions of, things that we have to work through or learn. But I just love that you've been committed to, I love that you said like the daily surrender, right? Like, because
Mhm.
I think a lot of us are control freaks. And
Mm.
I'm calling you out. I'm calling you out, guys. So,
Mm.
we're control freaks.
Yeah.
We're recovering control freaks,
Mhm.
where we want to orchestrate things and we want to have our plan and we want things to go as we have planned. But
Mm.
sometimes we have to realize, while yes, we can come up with, tentative a tentative plan of what we would like to see, oftentimes things don't go as planned, but hopefully they go better than we could have ever planned when we have something like that daily surrender. Like if I know that I am taken care of, ultimately all things are working out in my favor for my best good, then
Right.
I can let go and say like, well, yes, I would like certain things, but like what is
Mhm.
there for me and how do I need to show up so that I can, accept that. I would love to hear for you, like, what would you say as a word of like encouragement, right? If someone is like down and they're in a season of struggle,
Mhm.
they're, like they are feeling like, man, I'm really being tested right now.
Mm. Yeah.
What was encouraging for you? What would you say to encourage someone else?
I mean, I would say allow yourself to feel whatever that is for you.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times it's just going to be like, be strong. It's going to be okay.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's not that easy. But
Mm-hmm.
I have found that allowing myself to go through it, giving myself the permission to feel whatever
Yeah.
I'm feeling, I can appreciate once I walk out of it. And then after I give myself the time, now I'm not saying camp in that space, in that place, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just saying, just allow yourself to feel, why are you feeling this way?
Yeah.
And then I'm able to say, you know what, Monica, this too shall pass. This too shall pass. If God did it before for you, he will do it again.
Mm-hmm.
As I have mentioned earlier, there were plenty times where I went to bed crying because I couldn't understand an assignment. And I was
Mm-hmm.
just like, I don't know what this is. But guess what? The very next day, I would
Yeah.
go to work and I'm talking to a colleague and I'm like, hey, how's school? I'm like, it is a challenge, girl. I don't even know. They're like,
Yeah.
okay, tell me what you're doing. And I would share and they're like, oh, I just had that assignment in my class. Meanwhile, the person goes to a whole different school and they're in like a PhD program and they're like, oh yeah, I did the whole thing. Actually, I got 100 on it. And all you gotta do is boom, 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 boom. And I'm like, I go home just sent something that I spend 24 hours crying about. I come home and I write the whole paper in 2 hours, turn
Ooh.
it in and come back on an A.
Ooh.
I'm like, God, I see you. So it's like one of those things where I'm just like, oh man, So if I didn't allow myself to feel the pain the night before when I couldn't go through it, and if I just say, I'll try again tomorrow, just
Mm.
be strong, you're gonna be okay. Maybe I may not even have brought it up with my friend, talking
Mm.
to share my struggles. So
Mm.
be real with your struggles when you're sharing your information. I'm not saying go tell your whole business, but
Yeah.
whatever you can, depending on what the topic is, I would say feel whatever's going on and then find someone who you feel you can share that information with. And for me, it's not only been in financial support that the Lord has showed up, it's been in people also. A
Mhm.
word of encouragement from someone else,
Yes.
right? Even like on TV, on the radio, on social media. So it's so funny when, like when you're awakened, you see so much more and you hear so much more.
Yeah.
So just to encourage you out there, it's okay. This too shall pass, but allow yourself to feel what you're feeling. Why are you feeling this way?
Hmm.
You know,
Wow, y'all, that's a counselor. If you're in the New York area, I don't know, guys. I don't know when you're starting to take clients, but we got a new mental health counselor on the scene here. I love that you mentioned to give yourself permission. I think so many of us are waiting for permission from someone else.
mm,
Permission that may never come, you know what I mean?
yes.
So it's like if you can't give yourself permission, you may be waiting forever. You may never
Mhm.
get that opportunity. And so, empowering yourself to give yourself the permission to feel your feelings. And so many women, I think have that, I don't know if I want to say curse, but like we have because we're so strong and because we can take a lot, we take a lot. And we take more than we sometimes need to. We exercise our strength oftentimes beyond what we need to. So being able to allow ourselves to feel what we're feeling, to, have that struggle, to lean on support. Like you said, you went and you spoke to, reliable, trustworthy people.
Yeah.
And in that you got support. And then you also had breakthroughs, I think is
Yes.
key too. Like doing it alone is the number one thing that could like lead to burnout and
Mhm.
you just wanting to quit. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
But I'm so glad to hear that you were able to find these pockets of support in different areas of your life, in school, in your money journey, like in your spiritual walk, right? And so I
Yeah.
think that that's really one of the biggest keys I take away from this. And Chef Stacey Dugan saying, wow, congratulations, Monica. I am tuned
Yeah.
in. I need to hear your story and mindset. And even while you're on the journey, like even me as a person who's done, whatever, right? Like it's
Yes.
always good for me to hear this stuff too. Like it's good for all of us to be
All of us.
everybody, okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
To be
Every time you
reminded.
hear it again, especially when that's why I love community. That part, that right there, right? Because I can hear someone else, they say, oh yeah, I paid off blah blah blah. But I'm like, okay, what was your journey like?
Mhm,
In whatever area, even at church, if I meet someone, I'm like, okay, so tell me your story. Hearing someone else, you're just like, whoa, I had no idea.
mhm,
But you can draw strength from that because you're like, okay, if you did it, so can I,
mm,
you know?
mm. If she did it, so can you, y'all. If I did it, so
Mhm,
could she. Like it's just
mhm,
this trickle effect. It's this domino effect. And that's a little
mhm,
bit of why I think, what it looks like for us to show up in the world is different for each person. But
mhm.
being able to show up is so significant because we are collective, we are social in nature. And so the more we are able to share our stories at the grocery store or, at a networking event, on a podcast, like you are Kingdom Women, which you should be subscribing to. Um,
Yes.
is really key. And so I would love to hear you're debt free now, you're a newlywed, like
Mhm.
are a new graduate, like
Yes.
what does this other side look like for you? What are you excited about in this new season?
Yeah, I mean, so many things have happened this year alone. So my husband and I actually got married first in February, and then we had our white wedding with everybody else, family and friends, come in June. So with everything happening this 2023, there was no time for a honeymoon. Okay. So we are actually looking forward to doing that by our first anniversary in 2024. So that's what's on the radar. We're planning that. So I'm just really excited to be able to get away. And honestly, it's more than just like a honeymoon celebration because it's like graduating. He
Mhm.
also graduated, I graduated, and then we had our wedding. So it was just so many things going on, and we have so much to celebrate because we're just
Yes.
so grateful. So allowing ourselves to take a moment to just soak it all in, take it all in is what I'm looking forward to.
Oh my goodness. So celebrating by going on your honeymoon, which
Yeah,
is so exciting.
yeah,
I know that you've got your podcast and not just your podcast, your business, right? I would love to
yes,
hear
yes.
like who is your podcast for? Who should be listening? What do you talk about on it? And then also like what other ways can people, tap into your world?
Yes. So my podcast is You Are Kingdom Woman podcast, and it's just an amazing platform, honestly. Um, I would say anyone from like 18 years old and older. I see when I look at like, the stats of my audience, it starts from that. And some people go as high as in their 60s. So I'm like, you know what, Lord, have your way.
Yeah.
So like my listeners are also, it's mainly a majority women, but you also have men in there. And I remember when I was doing this podcast, people are like, are you ever gonna have men on there? I'm like, listen, the first person I'll ever have on there will be my husband. And I wasn't even with anybody then. Yet. So then this year was the first time that he was able to come on, and people were just like, okay, he needs to come back because we love what you guys are doing. So he's been able to come back a few times, and we just love doing what we do. The podcast honestly talks about anything mental health, spiritual health, and emotional health. Just being able to grow within ourselves. I know I wouldn't be here without God and how far I have come because even just starting this podcast was also a God led. It took me a while. Okay. It was supposed to come out in 2020. It didn't. 2021, all I heard was podcast. Literally everywhere I went. Someone has a podcast in them. I was just like, okay. So did not launch until 2022. I mean, everything happens for a reason. I'm just glad we were able to put it out there. But so yeah, if you are looking for encouragement, and we encourage a lot of like healing conversations on there,
Mm,
whether it's in relationships, in different areas of your life. And I also have different guests who come on, tell their story.
mhm,
Like I believe in community, hearing someone else's story, breaking chains, breaking bondages. I'm all about that healing from within,
mhm.
is what we really promote on the podcast. So please go ahead and subscribe. We find us on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, you name it. You
Anywhere
can
you listen
find.
to podcasts at, you're gonna be able to find it. You
Yes,
Kingdom
yes,
Woman podcast. And we all need healing conversations. We all need to do that work of looking at the places that sometimes are scary, sometimes are, maybe a little bit sore.
hmm,
Because the more we heal, the faster we will get to where we want to be in life. And so people are always like, on a rush to get to financial freedom, or to get to healthy relationships, or just being
right,
fulfilled. And I truly believe that lies in your healing journey. And so
right.
being able to listen to healing conversations in all these different realms of your life from a qualified source, mind you, master's degree having,
Amen. Amen.
counselor, y'all, also helps. Not that other things, if someone doesn't have a counseling degree, that it doesn't, but she's literally spent years going
Right, right,
through schooling to learn how to have these conversations. That's what she is, a
yeah,
professional conversationalist. So I'd highly suggest that you tap in, get on her email list, all that fun stuff, because I believe that it will add value to your life. So, I just am so grateful. Like, I cannot say it enough to be coming out of 2020, 2023. I went back to the emails and I sent you the screenshot
I
yesterday
saw. I was like, oh my gosh, I wrote this.
from 3 years ago, where you
Yes,
me, and when I was just looking at it, I was like, wow, check. She did that. Check, check, check.
so
Um,
surreal.
it's so surreal. But 3 years of dedicated effort has gotten
Mhm.
you to where you are now. Just like you said, like
Mhm.
what's going to happen in the next 30 years
Yeah.
with you continuing to kind of do this daily surrender, walk in your path of alignment and authenticity. And it doesn't mean hustle and grind all the time. Like, you were gazelle intense for 6 months, you paid off your debt. Yes, you still had jobs after that to be able to cash flow graduate school, but like, you shouldn't be hustling forever. You shouldn't be in the grind forever.
Right.
It's supposed to be seasonal, and then you're supposed to come out of that to rest and recover, recharge. And then sometimes
Mhm.
you go back into the season again and the season looks different. This season, this
Right.
tougher season, y'all, is way. But
Right. Right.
my debt-free journey was preparation for my mom journey in some way. My
Exactly.
mom journey is preparation for my business journey, or whatever the case is. All of
Right.
it is linked together in some way. And we're happy to, have had you here with us on this conversation. Hopefully it added value for you. If you enjoyed it,
Absolutely.
yay! It's just such a pleasure to know you, such a pleasure to support you, and to see what things
Thank
continue
you.
to unfold. I can't wait to hear where you going on this honeymoon.
Yes, yes, still in the works, but we're excited.
I love it. Well, thank
Yes.
you again for being here. And y'all, we will be back with another conversation in the new year. So make sure to stick around, subscribe, all of that fun stuff. Share it with a friend and stay
Hmm.
encouraged.
Thank you so much, Jason. I had a great time.